Hi there, and welcome to Behind the Business. This is a podcast that we're going to be doing on a regular basis, and we're going to cover various topics to do with helping you run a business. And that can come from many forms, whether it's just processes or it could be about the mindset and the wellness of the business owner. So my name's Stephen Swift, and I'm a business strategist stroke consultant, and I've helped businesses go from humble beginnings of about 100,000 or less in sales a year and help them put processes in place and scale through lead generation to meeting or exceeding their expectations of making 6 and 7 figures of sales per year, should I say. That's my role. And John, if I hand over to you, you can introduce yourself to the crowd as well.
Yep. Hi, Steve. Good to see you again. As Steve said, my name is John Child. I am a life coach and neuro-linguistic programmer. So I help people, and over the years have helped hundreds of people remove those barriers and those blocks, those limiting beliefs that stop them succeeding in the areas of life that they want to succeed.
Absolutely. So what the intention of this podcast is going to be, excuse me, is going to be every single week or maybe every fortnight, we're going to touch on specific topics that's going to help give you value and content that you can implement in your business straight away. It's going to be something that's going to help take your business, whether it's a mindset or a belief or a wellness, or it's just simple processes that you've tried and you've fallen into pitfalls or you've come up against hurdles and you're just struggling to find a way to overcome them. Hopefully, the value you'll get from these podcasts will help you overcome those hurdles far quicker. And if you did want to get in touch with either John or myself about our particular areas of expertise, then there will be descriptions and links in the comments below this video clip. But it's not about us, it's about what we can offer you to help you in your business. So it's all about you and how you're going to get to where you want to be in the fastest time possible with as less stress as possible, reducing the frustrations you may have, and getting you answers to the problems that you currently have and providing you with the ideal solution that's going to help you not only in your business life, but also in your home life. Because that's something that people don't tend to realize is if you're getting stressed out and frustrated and annoyed with things when you're at the office or in a warehouse or when you're out on the road, depending on what your business type is, that's going to have an effect on your home life. And I know John can help massively with that area. My expertise is more about the processes of the business and how to reduce them stresses. So what we're going to do is we're going to kickstart today's podcast, this session that we're doing today, by talking about when you're starting a business. You may expect things to go how you planned it when you did your business plan. But what do you do when things go in a completely different direction? How do you adjust? How do you adapt to get things back on track to meet your goals, to hit your expectations? Now, I'm going to bring John in here just because I think it's important to, before you get into the business side of things and how you build the business, it's having the right mindset and understanding and setting yourself up for the emotional side of running a business. So, John, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, sure, Steve. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Nothing ever goes to plan. I think that's the key point here is when you enter a new area of life or a new project, you can kind of convince yourself that this is what you want to happen, so this is what's going to happen, and it just doesn't work that way. You know, life happens, things happen constantly all the time. We were talking before we hit record about that very thing because this episode was supposed to be last week, but my ceiling caved in, so it didn't happen. Well, it's a flippant example, but in the early stages of any new project or any new business, you don't know what you don't know, and you can very easily get carried away with the excitement of everything because it's a big deal. It's taking control of your life again. It's doing something that you're interested in. If you're starting a business in something, it's because you're passionate about it, and if you're not passionate about it, it's not going to go right anyway, and if it does, it's not going to be for long. So you really need to get your head around the fact that what you're entering is a learning phase as well as an action phase. And there's very few areas of life where outside of the work environment where your learning phase and your action phase run parallel. You know, you're having to implement things that you learned 5 minutes before in some cases. You know, if you've started a new job ever, you know that you're learning things, but you're learning them on the hoof. Well, with your own business, you're doing exactly the same thing. But the problem is, nobody tells you that before you start your business. They tell you, this is going to be great. It's a great idea. You've got a bit, if you go to a bank for finance and you've got a business plan and they give you the finance, they're saying to you, this is a great plan. We know it's going to work. Go away and make it work. And at that point, you go home, you go, fantastic, I've got a business, I'm going to do it. Oh, there's a whole load of stuff I didn't expect I needed to know here. And let's take an example of me and you, Steve. We are consultants in different areas. You do specifically business, I do life. I'm a life coach because I'm passionate about helping people overcome those barriers. But when I started my coaching practice, I suddenly realized, oh, I'm expected to be a marketer, a salesperson, an accountant, you know, all these different business areas that I'm not passionate about being an accountant. I'm not passionate about looking at receipts or tax returns or any of that stuff, but it's important stuff you have to know. And I know you're going to talk a little bit about that in a second. But the thing is, that realization creates a sense of overwhelm. And it's that sense of overwhelm that can kill a new project before it's even started, because you sit there and go, I don't know what to do. It's like a rabbit in headlights. And it's about taking a step back. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few moments, and asking yourself some questions to allow you to retake control of what's happening in your body and to move past that barrier. But why don't you talk a little bit before that, Steve, about that new business process and the different areas that people don't necessarily expect?
Yeah, I think there's the people that I've worked with over the past 16 plus years, they've all had something very, very similar in common, even though they've been in different niche markets, whether it's been hot tubs or solar or security or whatever it might be, warehousing. You know, I've worked for a multiple different types of business niches, but they all seem to have the same kind of, not necessarily problems or issues, but misunderstanding of what they need to have in place and the knowledge they need to have. Some people will just go off the fly and they'll go, right, I'm an expert at, I don't know, landscape gardening. They are probably very, very good at landscape gardening. They're not necessarily as good at running a business, because those are two completely different skill sets. But that doesn't mean to say that they can't learn the skills needed to manage the business. And that can be something as simple as, how do you get clients to begin with? What processes do you have in place? Because leading on from what you were saying, John, about the bank scenario and getting the funding from the bank, for those that have not got their own capital investment into the business and they're having to go and source loans, etc., that you need to know that that isn't just a license to say, right, they've just put 20 grand, 100 grand, whatever it might be, into your bank just to get your small, medium-sized enterprise off the ground. They want that money back, and there's going to be interest on that. So the sooner you can build up a client base, take, for example, the landscape gardening for one, of regular bookings from your clients. You can only do that if you're an expert in what you do or deliver a very, very good service based on the price. And price is something we'll probably discuss in another podcast, not for today, because that's a whole different world altogether. But you need to be able to do that. You need to understand how to present things massively these days online. There's a lot of people that think they know how to use social media, for example, and they get it completely wrong because they try and sell all the time. They put what they think's good on the internet, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or whatever, but they don't necessarily listen to what their audience is looking for, which would engage with them. So they need to learn that as well. You then need to learn about the materials, the products, the consumable items that a business will use up, and what the frequency of that is, and how then do you handle ordering more? Do your suppliers meet the demand of your business as it grows, as you scale it? Are they going to have a problem? Do you have alternatives? So do you have a contingency plan rather than just, I can weed gardens, I can trim hedges, I can get rid of all the rubbish, I can design different flower borders and rockeries, etc., put water features in and lighting, etc. That's all well and good. That's the expertise of the business owner. It's the other things that happen behind the scenes, hence obviously why we've called this podcast as we have, behind the business, is the things that you don't necessarily think about or even know about, that's going to have a detrimental effect on your business moving forward. So it's important to know there are various things you need to have in place and be able to understand how they work. You can maybe delegate them later on, but initially you need to understand how to run your business rather than just delivering the end result, which is the expertise you're in, the landscape gardener, the electrician, the accountant, whoever it might be. It's the bits before that that you need to understand. And a lot of people sometimes get a bit overwhelmed, which again, drops into your realms of what you help with, John, is how do you combat the fear and the realization that suddenly, oh my God, I didn't realize there was this. How am I going to do that? And, the walls can feel like they're starting to close in a bit, because guess what? You're the owner of the business. There's no one above you. There's no one for you to turn around and say, is this right? What do you think? Unless you have close friends or family that's not going to lie to you and sell you a dream pipe that, oh, you're brilliant. Yeah, everything's great. You want someone that's going to give you some hard truths. And that's when an external expert, like a business coach or a mentor or whoever it might be, is the person that's going to give you, to be blunt, the kick up the ass that sometimes you need to get things done. And also the one that gives you a shake and goes, what you're doing this for, you're going to go down this route and it's going to wreck your business before you even start. That might sound a bit vague and a bit wishy-washy, but obviously we're going to cover these in future podcasts, and we'll deep dive into each topic in more detail so that people understand it and can take action. Because I think that's what we're about here, John, isn't it? People being able to understand what we're going to be talking about over the future weeks and months of podcasts, and how they can take immediate action for an immediate quick win. It could be a small, it could be a big win, but it's moving the business forward in a direction that when, like you said before, they initially go to launch the business and it starts to have all these problems. And they're only problems because lack of knowledge. And that's where sometimes you have to bring expertise and experts into your business to help.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. And you touched on a couple of very important points, which I just want to go back to for a second. First of all, you reiterated there, we've called this podcast Behind the Business. From my point of view as a coach, as I said before, you're very much a business expert, a business mentor. My point of view, I'm about people. And from my perspective, that's why I like the fact that we've decided to call this Behind the Business, because from my point of view, this feeds into exactly what you've just said. What's behind the business is the person that's running the business. And if you've got issues that are stopping you running that business effectively, then that's where someone like me can step in. And the other thing that you mentioned there was about using business mentors, business coaches, and how they can help you get the right advice and do the right things for your business. And it's important to note that it's the old model of unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence and unconscious competence. And it's about knowing what you don't know. And unfortunately, particularly in the environment that we're in at the moment, where online there's an awful lot of, every time you put the computer on, there's some guru telling you should be doing this, you should be doing that. Well, that's all very well, but what that does is it breeds an entire group of people who want to be entrepreneurs, want to run a business, but they don't know what they don't know until they're in a position where they're trying to run a business and they don't understand why it's not working. Or they realize there are all these different areas that I'm not an expert in or I'm not interested in, but they're integral to running a business properly, because you're absolutely right. The skill of running a business isn't the same as the skill of providing the service or the product that you are an expert in. And that feeling of overwhelm is something that you need to address very, very quickly. And there's a very easy way of doing that. And that's by asking yourselves a number of questions. Get a piece of paper and a pen. And this is a very quick exercise, which I'm just going to talk through very quickly. People can pause, come back, whatever. But it's a number of questions, and they all start with what. And you'll see me looking down at the paper. But first of all, you've got to be. It's very important that with these questions, you're extremely honest with yourself. Everybody lies to other people about their skills and their interests. They lie to themselves about their skills and their interests. Well, the time for that has stopped. You have to be extremely honest, or this isn't going to work. But the first thing you need to know is, what are you the expert in? What is your business going to do? What's it going to provide? What are you? What's the knowledge you're putting over, or the product that you're putting over? Second, what are you excited to learn and to do? Now, this is really important because it goes back to what I said earlier on about this is an action phase that's running parallel to a learning phase. If there's something that you've identified that you don't know how to do, are you excited to learn that or not? Are you interested in learning how to do that? So for me, I'm not really interested in learning accounts. I'm not interested in ever doing that. Okay, so I'd be honest about that and write that down. I'm not interested in this, but I am interested in learning marketing and doing marketing, and I did do that. So you need to be honest about that. What is your main priority? So what is your main priority, not just with your business, but with your life? And I would suggest that for most people, that's going to be paying the bills. Okay, but it might be something else. So be honest about that. What is the main priority? Because you need to know that when you've gone through these questions, the actions you take on the back of it, are they going to meet that main priority? Because if you're taking action that doesn't move you towards that main priority and that major purpose with your business, what's the point in doing the action? It's just it's a distraction. And that's one of the issues with the way that most people, or a lot of people, decide on entrepreneurism. They decide after seeing a video from an online guru or whatever, or they go down a YouTube rabbit hole and they say, I'm going to learn about this. 2 days later, they come up, they go and try and do that. But is it moving the business forward? Is it moving them towards their actual goal? Because if it's not, there's no point doing it. What time do you have in order to learn the things that you don't know and to do the things that you need to do that you're not doing already? So you need to be honest about that. Get yourself a piece of paper, work out what time you've got in the week. If you don't have the time to do it, that's an issue. But you need to put time aside to learn these things. Otherwise, Steve said, you need to do this in a hurry. No one's picking you up, especially if you've got finance from somewhere you've got to pay back. If you get, people don't realize, if a bank or a VC or anybody gives you money, those payments, those repayments, they start immediately. They start the same month. You've got to get income immediately if you've got funding from somewhere other than yourself. So what time do you have? What are you capable of doing in that time? And again, you've got to be really honest about this. Are you a quick learner? Are you a short? Do you take longer than average to learn things? Me, I'm the slowest reader in the world, so I allow myself twice as long as anybody else if I'm learning from a book. Audible has been fantastic for me because I can listen to things, I take things in quicker. So what can you do in that time? What do you not have the time to do, or what do you not have the motivation to learn and do? Okay, again, really, really important that you're honest about this. If you have the time to do something, but you don't have the motivation, you're not going to do it. And you need to be honest about that and write that down. What is the thing that you're not motivated to do? So that's the opposite of what are you excited to learn? And then the final question, and this is the one where I urge you to really take in everything that you've written down previously, is what are you going to do about this? And that's where you say you've got to talk to yourself quite severely and say, this is what I'm going to do. These are the things I'm going to learn now. This is how I'm going to learn it. If you need help learning it, who are you going to get to help you? Is it going to be someone like Steve who can help you in multiple areas? Are you going to seek out a specialist in a specific area if there's only one or two? What are you going to do in order to address these issues? Are you going to outsource some work? Do you have a friend who's already got a functional business who can give you advice on how they handled this kind of thing? Very, very important questions. As soon as you realize that you're getting overwhelmed, you've got to stop, you've got to breathe, you've got to forget all those online gurus that are telling you that this is the one thing you need to learn and go and do that. Stop. Everybody's different. You are those gurus, they niche in the same way that your business is niched. You are their ideal client, but they may not be your ideal mentor. So you need to be honest about, well, this person's offering me a course in this. Maybe I should go and do that. Well, if that's not what you need to know, so get conscious about what you don't know and what you actually need to know. And once you've done that, go through those questions, and that should put you back on the right path. Does that make sense,
Fantastic
Steve?
content. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very valuable, I think, to the people watching this. Hopefully they've taken notes, like you say, pause it and do each question in turn, because I think everyone has got something in common, and that is accountability. And as the business owner,
Absolutely.
you are accountable for everything that happens in your business. And if you aren't going to be accountable for it, then get out of business. Simple as that. It's going to fail. You're going to flop. It's going to be a waste of time. You're going to give all your clients a disservice. You're going to be taking the money and you're not really giving them true value. You've not really invested in yourself to invest your business in the people that are going to part with their money. So accountability is key for me. It's taking the action is another one. Go through the questions that John's mentioned there, because if you don't do it, what do you expect to happen? There's going to be nothing that's going to change. You're not going to get any value out of this. And again, touch on another point John briefly said there, which was about picking the right person. Do you really need to know this part now to do with the questions that he's just gone through with you? Or do you need to know something else? Which one is priority? And getting it at the right time that it's needed. So you need to be open to listening to other people, taking on board what's relevant to your business at that time. Because otherwise you get procrastination can set in, you get distracted, the old, shiny object syndrome, where it's this guru said this, oh, that's good. And then once you've clicked on one, they're using this technique, and it's known by lots of people. It's called retargeted marketing. You click on one of these gurus' websites or on their Instagram or Facebook or YouTube videos, like, the one that you're watching now. And I mean, we're not doing the retargeting, so don't worry about that sort of thing. But a lot of them do. We might do in the future, but right now we're not. So, but what will happen is those people and similar kind of experts to what they are will start popping up all over on your mobile phone device. It'll pop on your laptop, on your computer. It'll be everywhere. And then you'll end up listening to lots and lots of people that are all calling themselves gurus. I have never labeled myself that. I've labeled myself somebody that is accountable for getting my clients results. Well, basically, I take the clients in the direction they want to go in, which is part of what I've called my own course. I know John's got his own as well, which, again, the details will be below. But it's all about taking somebody from where they are now, giving them the knowledge that they need to help them overcome fear, procrastination, problem solving, making them accountable for things so that they can grow their business. Because if you're not interested in those few things alone, then you're not really a business owner. If you can't take a holiday having paid yourself, you haven't got a business. You've got a debt and you've given yourself a job. Who in the right mind would want to go from a 9 to 5 with somebody else to give them a hell of a lot of debt around the neck, possibly putting the house on the line as well as collateral, the car and one thing and another. I mean, some of the people watching this, you might have family. You're putting all that at risk if you're not prepared to put in the time, the effort, be open to the right information from the right people at the time you need them and take it on board. Until such time as, like I mentioned earlier, you've got to the point where you can delegate by employing people, or like John said, subcontracting certain elements. But you've got to be careful with the subcontractors. You need to make sure you've got the contracts in place properly and that they are accountable very specifically for set tasks to keep your business moving forward. And again, we can deep dive into that particular topic on another podcast. But I think for now, do the questions that John's, provided in this podcast. I suggest you take a good long hard look at yourself and make sure you're going to be accountable for everything that you do in your business. Be thoughtful. Watch the beginning part again when I was on about the landscaping example. I'm only saying go back and watch it so we don't have to reiterate too much and waste time when we could be giving you more value on another podcast. So, I think that's a great start. I've enjoyed doing this inaugural podcast of Behind the Business. Hopefully you got value from what I've had to say. John, is there anything you'd like to say just to wrap things up?
No, I think we've covered everything that we were going to talk about today. I think accountability is huge, and I think if people go through that exercise, it's hopefully they'll get some value from it. I think you mentioned our contact details are in the description below this video, and if anybody needs to get in contact with either of us, they can do so through there. But
yeah. So what I'd say is, if we can, after watching this video, if there's any particular topics that you're struggling with in business, whether it's John's expertise or mine, or just generalization between us, I'm sure we will be able to come up with the right kind of direction for you, point you in the right direction. We've got a wealth of network behind us. There's a team of people that we can tap into to help you, and we can maybe bring them on as guest speakers going forward. But it's also certainly an opportunity for us to put a podcast on a specific topic. We want to give you value, rather than just rambling all the time, don't we, John?
Absolutely, and I think that's a great idea for some homework for people. I think why not go to click on this video, go to the YouTube, and in the comments, what subjects would you like us to cover in future? Is there anything specifically that you'd like us to talk about? And pop it in there, and we'll read all your comments, and we'll take that on board. And just for me, for the exercise that I went through earlier on those questions, it'd be nice if people sort of, once you've done that, tell us how you found that exercise. Was that something that you found beneficial? Were there any surprises that you found when you went through those questions? I always like to hear what surprises clients have come up with when they've gone through exercises that I've set them. But that, I think, would make a great homework for anybody who's seen this, and we will, as I say, as Steve said, we'll address your comments, and we'll look at those subjects for future podcasts.
Absolutely. So there you go. You got some homework to do for the very first podcast that we've done from Behind the Business with myself, Steve Swift, and John Childs. We look forward to seeing you and welcoming you on the next podcast that we do, which will be coming up soon, based on another topic where we're going to add content, value, something that you can take away and apply to your business to get immediate results. Those small wins, those big wins. At the end of the day, it's moving your business forward. So appreciate your time. We're blessed to have you here, and we're very grateful of your time. Until we speak again, take care, and don't forget to drop some comments. Give us a bit of love, a bit of like, one thing or another, with a thumbs up, and one thing or another. We always appreciate any feedback that you want to give us. And don't forget to drop us a comments with the topics that you're struggling with. And, if you don't want to do it on the comments below and you want to do it privately, then, there will be opportunity to get in touch with us by email, etc. below. So you can do it anonymously. And, we're very thoughtful that some people don't want other people knowing that they're needing help. It doesn't mean to say that you can't get the help, though, but obviously, in a more private way. So thanks again for your time. Have a blessed day.
Take care.